Welcome to Marketing Without Pants. And then you go into whatever subject. Guess what? You're going to get some eyeballs. And
That's a major hook.
I have a hard time with wins. Just to be frank, I go, oh, cool. I did a thing. Why am I happy about that? Business is one of the best character building endeavors I have ever taken on. A lot of people chase these theoretical silver bullets because they watched a YouTube video or 20 of them, and then and they get the idea in their head that this is the thing that's going to make or break my business. Be the one that nobody can forget, and that's quality branding.
We need each other, right? It's not about one person. There's one mission. And we're one team. It's not about Tyler. It's not about the ops manager. It's one team, right?
In my business, as we grew, where I had to add infrastructure, not more revenue people. And that's a scary point the first time you do it, because then you end up with all this extra expense and you're like, oh boy, I hope this works, right?
Welcome to the Go Accomplish More podcast, where we interview successful individuals that are doing amazing things in their business and also in their life. And today's guest is Tyler Williams. He's a seasoned digital marketer with more than 14 years of experience helping businesses grow across Alaska and beyond. Tyler specializes in guiding plumbers and home service companies with clear branding, smart digital strategies, and creative execution that actually works. I admire how he's taken a niche that many overlook and turned it into a meaningful, consistent growth for the people he serves. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Good to be here in this place that I'm always at. But yeah, good to be on a digital here.
Awesome. And how's Alaska? I know you moved recently, right?
I did. Alaska's very cold and I'm not there, and that's okay.
Well, anyways, we're going to be asking a lot of questions. I'm so excited to have you. I've been waiting for this interview for a while. But anyways, let's start off by saying what's one recent win in your business that you've had or in life that made you pause and feel really proud of yourself?
First thing that comes to mind is we hit a revenue threshold, which it seems so self-serving to sort of be like, well, there's this revenue threshold, but it's true. And honestly, what happened is we have had moments of scaling really quickly. And, with scale comes problems, and then you fix the problems and you scale some more and you got new problems, all that. But we were at a conference that you're well aware of. And one of the things they asked us to do is measure our revenue. And we knew we were in this tumultuous growth period. We put all of our ducks in a row and sat in with our list, and then we're like, oh my gosh, we hit the next level of revenue that we were aiming for 3 months early. And we're like, awesome. My operations manager was there and we were both like, did we did that? Oh my God. So that was the most recent win. And really that's just a culmination of a lot of little wins to get to the bigger one. So
that's so good. And it's so important, right? To pause and celebrate those wins, right? Because a lot of times us as agency owners, we're just going from one win to the next win. And we have to pause because sometimes we're hard on us, like really hard on ourselves, right? Do you agree with that sometimes?
Oh, 100%. The problem with getting that particular win is I have a hard time with wins. Just to be frank, I go, oh, cool. I did a thing. Why am I happy about that? Because it's all in the name of progress, and progress is forward. And so once you hit the thing, it becomes what's the next thing in order to get there, because there's a bigger goal in mind to everything that we do. And so I don't want to lose sight of that. And I've seen this behavior and I actively fight against it. And so if you reach a big win, you can get complacent. You go like, oh, okay, I'm there. All right, I can rest on my laurels for a few months. And then a few months go by and you realize you undid your win. And then you're like, oh no, I didn't mean to do that. So I would say in that way, I'm hard on myself. And then there's the thing of nah, this isn't really, I'm not the one who did this. Somebody else did this. I just happen to be here right now.
That's so good. That's so good. And what led you to choose a niche? I know that your marketing agency, right? Your niche is plumbers. Is there anything that comes from your childhood or why plumbers, right?
So definitely came from my childhood because my brother is a plumber.
There you go.
So I saw when I joined a coaching group, 7-figure agency, which you've got a plaque for it right behind you. But when I joined that group, they really recommended narrowing down your focus in order to achieve clarity and work better. I mean, it's really just efficiency, right?
Totally.
And so that became the niche that I chose because I just blown my brother's business up with his help. I mean, it wasn't all me. And it became, okay, well, we got to choose a niche. Here's a really good case study. Let's run for it. And then I knew I had access to my brother for like, what are these guys talking about that I don't know? I thought I needed to know plumbing at the time. No, I don't. I just need to know how to sway one thing I love about marketing is you got to learn how to talk to their customer even better than you talk to them. So like when I realized it was like, oh, I need to market to my mom and my wife. Cool. Got it. I try and make them laugh all the time. So that works out well.
That's so good. That's so good. And you know, when you start niching down, you realize that you become the go-to expert, that your audience starts trusting you, right? Because a lot of times when you're running an agency, you start out as as a generalist, and you're trying to be that go-to marketing agency for everyone. And when you niche down, you realize that you become that expert, right? And they start trusting you. Would you say that has built a lot of trust when you started niching down?
Yes, but I don't think there's a cause and effect to it. Like for me, by narrowing into a niche, I was able to go deeper within that niche. And so like, because I had this existing agency, which had clients of all types in Alaska, and then I was going broader with nationwide just for plumbers, but I didn't want to lose revenue and people in that transitional process. Like I realized that I got worse at marketing the old guard than I did with these new plumbers because all of our processes and everything were able to go so much deeper. Like, and that's what I mean by efficiency. Like now, instead of like just running ads according to what we think is kind of going to work and kind of knowing the business model, we knew the business model for these guys, at least to the point that, until they adapted it. Like, but for when you try and serve everybody, you just can't go that deep. And then we've seen it's way easier for us to help get results, but also guide them along their own business journey because we've seen other clients with the exact same issues before. So it really helps. And then of course, internally really helps us because training is now like,
absolutely,
we already have experts in this particular thing on staff. So when we bring somebody new, they get to shadow those people and really like, they get to soak in it of this whirlwind of a very specialized zone instead of like, okay, now go learn these 20 different business models.
Exactly.
And then come back and then you'll be a good employee, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest things is that when you have a team and your team is growing at the same time, you have the same model, the same systems because you're serving one niche, right? Versus different niches. And like you said, you have to relearn, okay, this realtor, this lawyer, and now you're multiple, right? It just becomes a lot of headaches, right?
Yep. 100%.
Totally. So let me ask you, what's one marketing myth you see across any niche or small business that keeps owners from growing?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is, right?
That there is a silver bullet. That's the biggest thing. Like, so a lot of people chase these theoretical silver bullets because they watched a YouTube video or 20 of them. And then, and they get the idea in their head that this is the thing that's going to make or break my business. And while it might have a small or a big effect on your business, a lot of times what they've done in order to get to the point where they're working on that is they've ignored all these small little things that needed to be in place first. So a good way to look at it, especially in like my world and even with the plumbers, is we work a lot on influence. I'm an old school ads guy. Like print, radio, and TV is where I grew up. And then I think that like people thought that digital was going to make or break them. And that became a myth as that became more congested as businesses left traditional media. And now we're seeing like the pendulum swing back over to like, you got to be talking to people often and you got to be saying the right things. And when you get that right, guess what? Then your other lead gen advertising costs and your lead magnets, your funnels and all this stuff work better, but you got to have a baseline of foundational authority in any space almost. So I see a lot of people like hearing about a thing and then chasing it blindly, not realizing that they haven't even worked on a couple of the core basics. And then they're like, oh, well, this doesn't work. And they throw it out, baby with the bathwater sort of thing.
And you're big on branding. I've been seeing your videos a lot and I know that you believe in branding. Like what are the branding or messaging mistakes that you see in most let's say, most companies or most industries when it comes to branding and putting themselves out there?
Just had a conversation this morning that dovetails into this real nicely. I was on a consult with somebody, and this is not a unique experience. I was on a consult, and these guys, they were like, "Oh man, we've branded. Look how good we've branded. We've done all the things." And then I look at their brand, and I'm like, "You've done all the things that everybody else does." And so what they've done is they've just released themselves from one version of noise in a marketplace, because there's a bunch of them, and into another zone of noise, but they've never reached the top echelon of the small percentage of people who had courage in their brand to do something different. And so the biggest problem with branding and messaging and all that is that people start to become part of the mush, right? There's a billion of us out there, and marketing agencies do this too. And so that's why I'm so orange. But then like what we end up doing is you just start becoming one of the plumbers or one of the whatever industry you're in. And it's like, no, what you have to be is you have to be the one. Be the one that nobody can like forget. And that's quality branding. And so like lifting yourself out of the noise, that takes courage. It means doing things that other people aren't willing to do. And so every time I've had a client who's been like, I want to be weird and I want to be bold and I want to be different, they tend to win. Like over in the long term, that sense of courage in communication means that you can't ignore them. So
Give me some examples. Like, let's say the person listening to the show right now, let's say they're an agency owner and they want to start doing videos. They want to be the go-to expert. What would be some things they can do to stand out, right? And not just do the regular, hi, I'm a digital marketer. This is my services. Like, what are some things that they can do for them to stand out and to be different? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
I mean, I'm like trying to think of the ideas that even I'm afraid to do. So here's an idea that I've always wanted to do, but again, I don't know if I will, is find you could do this on a green screen, especially with AI now. Build yourself like get yourself a big chair, big over chair, get yourself a good bathrobe and like a pipe and a book or whatever. And so it looks like a big ornate fireplace. And then have your legs sticking out of the robe with like some funny slippers on, and then just call it like, welcome to marketing without pants. And then you go into whatever subject. Guess what? You're going to get some like eyeballs. And like,
that's a major hook.
Yeah, right. Immediately just knobby, hairy knees. That's all you need to hook people.
That's so good. And like my methodology when I'm doing videos is I think of the hook, story, offer. And I always think of when you do videos, there's always going to be at least 5 pillars, 4 or 5 pillars. And one pillar could be your health and fitness. Another pillar can be whatever you want it to be, right? And what you're doing is that you're humanizing your videos instead of just talking about marketing stuff, which is great. Like, I think you should be talking about you're the marketing expert for this niche, but you got to humanize it a bit. Like, would you agree that most agency owners, or even in any niche, they sometimes overcomplicate it and they think that they have to have a very cookie cut and just talk about their niche always and not just be real on some of the videos as well?
I do. And actually, that's something that I've been considering a lot in my own stuff because I've fallen into a pattern, right? Of like, okay, this is how I do shorts. This is how I do videos. This is how I do podcasts. This is how I do this. And like, there's a level of that carries through with my personality, but I can't help but think like, man, I want to take people on more journeys that are telling a story, right? So like, instead of being like, hey, here's what you should do, maybe being like, hey, here's what we're doing for someone, right? And doing it that way. But that's still a real work oriented thing. Lately, I've been toying around with more concepts around. I mean, because I'm typically I don't post a lot about my family life on like social because that's my kids and my wife's zone. Like,
sure,
I want them to have their own autonomy on it.
Of course,
but like, so I've been trying to reframe concepts, and I just posted today a picture of me with all this podcast stuff set up, and I was like, hey, this is just making connections. This is doing things with people. This is part of who I am. Like, it may seem like it's not a lot of energy, but it's still just I like to talk shop with people. And like, so what is that? That's a little bit of insight into my personal world about why I like to do this stuff. And it's not necessarily about like, here's how to get the lead of the day. Right. So I think that I think that betrays sort of like the humanity of me. And I'm trying to even engineer those into my own stuff. And I do think that you see a lot of, especially early agency owners, like clamoring, trying to be the expert when it's like, man, you should just be the person that wants to help. Like, don't worry about being the expert.
Totally.
Worry about being the helper and the servant in this. And then people will trust you more, and they'll give you a bit more leeway when you do make a mistake. That day is going to come.
That's so good. That's so good. You know that the other day I was called to do a presentation, and I was so concerned on how I sounded, but then I shifted my mindset and I said, you know what? Focus on giving value. Focus on the solution you're bringing to that audience, and it just made it better, right? Mm-hmm. It took all the pain and the worriness where you were focusing on, okay, let's make this great today. How can I bring value to that audience? And I think that if you're doing any type of video, if you're presenting, if you shift your mindset, that's going to help you to not worry about, oh my God, is it coming out perfect or not? You're helping that individual out, right?
So I was listening to a podcast with Stephen Colbert, of all people, like talking about like the push and play of an audience. Because I'm really interested in comedians and how they command a room, right? So it's communication down to its most instillated, like it's so raw and pure. They wrote a thing, they're delivering messaging to get a reaction, right? And so I love it when I find marketers who like comedy. But he was talking about his relationship with the audience and how with his monologues, he can tell if he's in the zone with them or not. And he has to sometimes give up what he wants to be in order to be what they need him to be, in order to reach that equilibrium of where they're both having a good time. And he said, that's where the magic happens. And I was like, oh, that's good. I gotta remember that when I'm doing a presentation.
I love that. The other thing I learned from a mentor was that when you're presenting, you have to look at your voice like an instrument. So let's say that you play the piano, you play the guitar. Would you stay in the same tone forever? You would like lose the audience, right? If you just kept in that same tone. But if you went up and you went higher and you went faster and you went slower, so your presentation should be the same. Like you can slow down, like I'm slowing down right now if you want to bring a point. And then when you're excited, you can speed up, right? Those are presenting little skills like that I'm learning. I've been taking some courses, and it's fascinating.
So I think there is also something of just getting in the reps, right? Like
absolutely.
Getting in front of people doing it. So when I coach people the first time that they're on camera, let's say, a lot, like, which I've been doing for 20 years or so, like, okay, say the script, like, there's a big difference between a seasoned performer who has almost a musicality to their voice. They go up and down and up and down. And some people have regular patterns that you can clue into, but it's really interesting to watch people grow. And I had one client, every time I gave him a script, he was like, hello and welcome to my business. But like 8 years later, he's like, hello and welcome to my business, right? And it was like, oh, that's a totally different person. And the way that the effect that it had on the audience or people who ever saw the TV ad and then the reactions to that ad, like it was totally different when he finally got his groove. But it took a little while of getting those reps in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. The more you do something, the better you get at it, and it becomes more natural for sure. So let's talk a little bit about strategy, right? You grew Mammoth, or Mammoth is in a growth mode right now. What systems or processes inside Mammoth marketing have made the biggest difference in your ability to scale? And how do you roll out the systems without overwhelming your clients or your team? I know it's a loaded question.
Like we've never overloaded ourselves or our team before, right? What do you mean? No, we're perfect. We knew everything. Number one, you got to have like a strong communication platform of some sort and force people to use it and sort of build the rules of engagement around that. But I would say one of the biggest things, especially lately, that we've done, there's two sides. One is we introduced a project manager, like somebody whose job was to ensure that things were moving forward and would call upon things if they weren't, right? And so there's these moments that I've realized in my business as we grew where I had to add infrastructure, not more revenue people. And that's a scary point the first time you do it, because then you end up with all this extra expense and you're like, oh boy, I hope this works. Right. But, and so I've realized that I'm hitting a couple of those as we go on. The project manager was one, an operations manager was another one, head of accounts, like things like this that end up building up the internals of your business. And when it comes to like process, one of the best things that we've done lately is we're like, our training is kind of iffy. And so we ended up building a training on how to develop training. And that meant that we had a single point of truth that was like, this is our baseline of quality. And now we are able to delegate those training modules to other people to actually have them do it. And then there's like an assessment on like, did you do this well? Or did you skip a bunch of steps and hope that people don't notice? Right. So the training to build training was a big one, because it empowers other people in the business to do the job that used to come to me and then came to me and my operations manager. And it's overwhelming. Like, just as big as we are now, you cannot be responsible for developing all the training and processes yourself. It's just, there's no way. So, and then, also just having the wherewithal to say, I might not be good at this part.
Absolutely. And I think that the going back to the training, the SOPs, and having everyone that is involved, let's say in the leadership or whatever you're doing, hey, listen, now your training or your, what's the right word to say? You have to take ownership of that training, what I'm trying to say, number one. Yeah. And then they have to be updating it, right, Tyler? Because a lot of times people think, okay, I'm going to do the training. That's it. I'm done. I can just relax for the next 2 years.
Moved on right? From this moment. Yeah.
but those trainings will be updated, right? Things change, right? Platforms change. So it's good to have that like every quarter, right? Where the person in charge of that SOP will also be changing it and updating it, right?
Yeah. So that was one of the biggest challenges, is because I built a bunch of training. Then like, of course it didn't get updated because now I'm busier.
Yeah, totally.
And then my operations manager built a bunch of training. Well, then she gets overwhelmed. And that's where we were like, okay, this is bad. We need to build a process around training. And one thing we're working on now is like, how do we do the spot checks to make sure that this training is getting updated or needs updating? And so we created a form for everybody that says, hey, there's a problem with this training. It's no longer valid. And so if somebody goes through this, because there's a lot of little trainings that people come through the agency with, we have a form that they fill out, and then that makes an alert for the internal team to be like, oh, let's assign this to whoever's responsible for this part of the department.
So good. So let me ask you, as agency owners, let's say you're an agency owner and you're trying to grow, right? From being the doer, right, to leading a team, what mindset and leadership shifts matter the most in your journey? Or like in your case, like how did you come from being the doer, because I'm sure you were a doer one day, and now you're kind of direct, you're more of the directing side of it. You're directing, you're casting vision, and you have a team.
It was really hard for me because I was very much a doer and still am. Like I love to do, and I've had to create like safe spots for me to do stuff that doesn't like ruffle the feathers of the agency. Otherwise I get restless. I'm like, I need to produce something. I need to go make something. But first, not everything has to be done exactly the way I would do it. Like that is a huge component. Like that is basically the enemy. The perfection is the enemy of execution incarnate. Is when I see so many owners doing this, where they just like, they hire somebody to do a thing, and then they find out that person is not as good at the thing as they wanted them to be, because they expected this unicorn to be better than them at it. And that almost never happens right out of the gate. So like, to hire somebody and understand that there's going to be training. There's going to be like times for us to push this ball forward into a new zone. And then you end up with some people who understand that assignment, get to it, and then they go and they really start owning that task. But the mentality shift also became, I have to let some things also fall is another hard one. Right. So I was playing Band-Aid to so many things. The minute something went wrong, well, now I'm involved, now I'm doing things, and now I'm nurturing these things forward, instead of going like, that's interesting. Do you think that's going to work? Right. And just letting the chips fall sometimes. You got to give people enough room to fail a little. When you do that, you're actually training and protecting your team and your agency, even if it creates a problem for a client at the moment. Right? And I've had to go, can I let them make a mess that I can clean up in order for them to learn the lesson that they need to learn, right? And then you have a better employee on the other end, and then a better agency as you go through this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if, as an agency owner, if you tend to jump in whenever there's a problem, you're actually teaching them dependency on you jumping in, right? And it's hard sometimes, right? Because ego can come in the way. You want to come in and save the day, right? As the agency owner, or maybe like you said, like the trust factor, not trusting the person, but just trusting the process. And like you said, if someone can do it 80 or 90% as good as you, it's better because they're going to learn. And then eventually they'll probably be better than you in that specific area, right?
I mean, I got a story for this one. I was on a cruise with my family, and just something was happening. I don't remember what it was. And I got a call from the head of accounts and the ops manager, and they were like, "Hey, want to let you know about this." And I got a message, but I couldn't actually directly interface with them or something like that. And I ended up jumping in, getting the internet package on the ship or whatever. And then when I got to land and when I got back to the office, basically, they sat me down. They're like, "You made things so much worse." I was like, "What do you mean? I was helping." And they were like, "No, you weren't a reliable communicator because you were on vacation. And then these other factors came in that, and you didn't have this context, and you didn't wait. You were just," they reamed me on it for good reason. I was being impatient because I was really worried about providing really good quality service to the person. And I ended up screwing it up further and creating a lot of consternation among the team that created stress. And so I've also had to learn, like, I got to hold myself back. Like I'm not the best judge of when I should jump in anymore. So now I look to my ops manager and I'm like, "Hey, do you need me?" And unless she says, "Yeah, I need you," I'm like, "Okay, well, I trust her." Right. And if I'd never give that trust, like I'm not going to grow the agency. She's not going to be able to grow the agency that she's partly responsible for too. Either.
So good. There's a book you probably read, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And he teaches that, right, it's either a systems problem or a people problem, right? So when that problem arises, you just have to go back and say, okay, what happened here? Was it a systems problem or a people problem? And then if it is a people problem, then it's just a matter of coaching them and letting them know, hey, listen, did you follow the system? Did you follow the SOP? Right? And if the SOP is outdated, then we got to fix the system, right? The SOP and make it better. But in the end of the day, they both need to blend and they both need to trust each other, right?
Yeah. I think the hard part is when you have systems that overlap and they need to talk to each other. Sometimes you want people to be in a room and they work in a silo, especially when you're a remote company like us. Like, it's something you have to learn is, hey, maybe you guys don't just pass through a bunch of chats back and forth. Maybe you get in a room, you discuss, and you log what that discussion was inside of the task. Like, so making sure that you encourage people to use these communication pathways that are a little bit more human, because here's the other side effect of, like, when they start doing that, they remember they're human. And then you have less consternation among the team between different departments.
So good. Yeah, I think over communicating is so crucial, like internally, because that's going to allow you to make sure that everyone's seeing eye to eye with everything that's happening at once. So true. So mindset, like you've chosen to serve this blue collar community, right? Plumbers. What has this niche taught you about business, about character, or even about your long-term purpose?
I realized that we share a lot more similarities than I thought at first, because I'm not a plumber. I'm not mechanically inclined one bit. I'm electronically inclined. I'm I'm digitally inclined. But I learned that the plumbers that I serve really are, I mean, they're just like me. They're just guys trying to make a better life for their family, right? And we're both service-based businesses, and we're both really trying to push our world forward, our employees' world forward. And so, and we find that there's strategic alignment for us to work together to do that. And that's really cool. And I think what I've learned about that zone is there's a lot of, I don't know, I really respect a lot of the guys on our client list and what they are trying to do. And some guys are seasoned business owners who are beyond me in years. And then a lot of them are newer. So I end up being a teacher to them sometimes in some business stuff. But I think that watching them grow and learn reminds me that no matter how long I've been inside of this world of marketing and advertising, whether it's service-based businesses or not, like the guys who really take it on themselves to say, I'm going to be a learner here. I'm really going to do my best. Those, I admire that. And I try and always remember that there's no cap. There's no ceiling to what I'm trying to do. Like there's no ceiling to me trying to learn something new and trying to offer a better product to somebody or service to somebody. Like there's always something in this river of change for me to just adjust to and tweak to, and that'll keep me on my toes. And that means somebody we both know made this quote online, Chris Rodriguez. She said, and I don't know if she picked this up from somewhere else, but your business is never done, and that's okay. And I was like, oh, that's good. That's a good one. And I really like that one because it is a journey. It's not a, oh, cool, tomorrow I'll be done with my business and then I'm just going to go sit on a beach, right? So A, beaches are boring. I don't know who would want to do that. B, there's always challenges. And I think what I really like about business is it forces you, if you're going to run an ethical business, it forces you to be an ethical person. It's business is one of the best character building endeavors I have ever taken on. It is single-handedly the thing that has shaped how I interact with the world and the way that like binds me to my values. And that's something that I think that every new owner can learn. And I love watching them do that. And then it honestly, that experience has turned me into a better person outside of business. Like I'm a better husband and father because I have that there.
And going along, I mean, we're growing our agency and you're dealing with more people, right? Because your team is growing. You're also dealing with more clients. So you're constantly communicating with clients. You're constantly communicating with your team. How has your culture affected your character and how you've grown?
Naturally, if you've listened to this whole thing, you'll know that, okay, Tyler's got a little bit of a funny bone in him. Like I like to giggle. And so I protect that in the culture of the agency. Like I want people to feel at ease, right? I want people to feel like, man, I get to go to work today. I don't want them to wake up and go, oh, I gotta go to work today. And granted, everybody has their days. But for me, what I had to learn, and this was a hard one for me, is that sometimes I do need to be stern. Like sometimes I do need to be, and it's stern might be the wrong word. It's more of just very clear. So I would use humor and soft language and in order to try and make everybody happy. But occasionally you can still, there's a fine line. I don't want to, so be an ass to everybody. No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, you can, like, sometimes clarity comes from just being sincere about your feelings on a matter and just setting the next leg of the journey. And so we found that was required. Sometimes I got to go, okay, guys, time to get serious real quick here. Here is the problem with this, and here's where I'm frustrated, and here's what we need to work on in order for the client to achieve their best results. So let's all focus in on that and go after it, right? Instead of like layering it in a world of smiles and jokes. So like learning when the culture needs different versions of yourself in order to push it forward. Now there are times though where it's stressful. When you grow, things get stressful, and then you end up going, man, the staff needs some levity today. What can I do to just like break the ice a little bit? So for instance, my uncle the other day sent me a picture of me from high school, and it's like the worst picture of me ever. I look like a total goof. And So at our staff meeting, I put that on the slide and I said, Merry Monday. And like, so when everybody logged in, that's what they saw. And I was like, and what's funny
Love
is
it.
they did not know it was me. Like, I had to tell them. They're like, oh my goodness. So but like those little touches of just like, hey, I'm human. I'm doing this. We're all
Totally.
doing this together. Like, let's have a moment together. Like those are really important. And I try and layer in those points of humanity and those points of clarity where I find that they're necessary. And I'm still learning the balance. Like, I don't know if I'll ever truly know the perfect balance.
That's so true, and we can relate a lot because I can be looked at as as a very nice leader and that jokes around, but then when the time gets like, hey, I'm serious now, and what you're doing is wrong. It can be hard sometimes, right, to break that cycle. But in the end, we cannot let things under the rug in order for the agency to grow. So sometimes, yeah, it becomes difficult. But I think if people know who you are and you've actually deposited good things in their life, then when the time comes that you have to speak to them like a little direct, they're going to understand, right? Because that's just part of the game. I mean, we're running a company here, and we need each other, right? It's not about one person. There's one mission, and we're one team. It's not about Tyler. It's not about the ops manager. It's one team, right?
We use the term help more and more. Like if somebody, it's not like, hey, why didn't you get the thing done? It's like, do you need help? Right.
I love that.
Often people really do want to get their job done well. Like the people who don't, they end up like, we suss that out really fast. Like, and so the people who can't get the job done, like you said, people or process problem. Like rather than them feeling like, oh no, I didn't get the job done and feeling like they need to go hide it under a rug, we ask them like, do you need help? It's okay if you need help. That can be tricky for people too. Like if they're not used to asking for help, sometimes it's still rough for them to like actually admit, yeah, I could use an extra hand here. It's like, okay, cool. This person has some extra time. Tell you what, for the next month, let's just have them help you on these little tasks that we need to get them through. We're just in the season, right? And so finding those out and ensuring that like it's sometimes A, you need to ask for help, and B, somebody else maybe just needs to see it and signal it and go, I can help. You need me to help? And so then you get a little bit more cross-departmental like love from people to people, which is good.
So good, so good. Tyler, it's been great. So listen, last but not least, we're going to go through lightning round questions.
Oh.
Okay, just 3 or 4, whatever's in your brain, and then we're going to close. Is that fine with you?
Oh yeah, I love lightning. Let's do this.
Let's do it. So one book or podcast or resource that changed the way you think about business or marketing.
Wizard of Ads, Roy H. Williams.
Okay, love it. One habit that keeps you grounded when business feels messy or unpredictable.
Man, it's working out or it's playing video games.
I love that. I love that. Okay, if you had to start your agency from zero tomorrow with no budget, what's the very first move you'd make to get traction?
I'd hop in the car and go knock on the door of every plumber within a 50-mile radius.
Love that. Love that old school mentality. I love it. All right. So we're good. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
So one of the best places is find me on Facebook, Tyler Williams, or Mammoth Marketing. Now, if you want to scope out more about us and like what I do for work, mammothforplumbers.com or tylerwilliams.net. Like, so I've got so many points of communication. You can't miss me, but I might miss you. So.
Amazing, amazing. And one thing I forgot to ask, and I usually ask this in every show, right? The show is called Go Accomplish More. So what's one thing that an agency owner can grab for them to accomplish more in their agency?
Be louder.
Ooh, love that.
Like, be louder, be bolder. I have a poster right there that says always be bold, and another one over there that says never be boring. Look, I'm wearing a shirt with my own face on it. Come on, do more, be louder. That's
I love it.
A lot of it.
I love it. All right, Tyler, it's been amazing having you on. You've definitely given us a lot of value, and your honesty, your integrity, the way that you are as a marketer, your t-shirt is amazing. Thank you for being on our show. Really appreciate you.
You're welcome.